Well, very happy to be joined by Boise State offensive coordinator Eric Kiesau. Coach, thanks for joining us here to talk about the Eagles draft pick, John Hightower, the wide receiver from the Broncos. And I guess before we get started, let's just get your scouting report. What have you seen from John Hightower over the last couple of years in your offense?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. There's no doubt in my mind you guys got a real good one, and not just a great football player, but what you'll love about John, what you'll see him, everybody's going to see his speed and his playmaking ability. But when you really find out what he's all about, he's very smart, he's very intelligent. His work ethic is impeccable. And he has all the intangible things that you want in a great player. And I think you'll be very happy once you get him there and get to know what kind of person he is and how he fits in with the guys. And he's going to be a great addition for you guys, no doubt.
I know he was a junior college edition for you guys. Do you have a memory, a specific play or anything like that when he first got to campus where you were like, man, all right, this guy's going to be someone that we can work with for the next couple of years?
It was actually on his recruiting film. He went to a junior college in Mississippi, and there was 3 or 4 really highly recruited guys on that team. So he didn't have a lot of production, but there was one catch in particular that I saw where he made this kind of diving catch in the corner of the end zone. His kind of body kind of flipped up. It's just he was very athletic and how he went after the ball. Anyway, that one clip, and then you see him, then you get him every day at Boise State. You kind of see how he works and how he practices, and it's really just an accumulation of his time in junior college and getting to Boise State and where he is now.
The first time I got to see him in person was down at the East-West Shrine Bowl down in St. Petersburg, Florida, and he had a couple of those grabs down in the red zone late in the week that really kind of caught my eye. And that's why I wanted to ask you, we've talked a lot this weekend about the difference between hands and ball skills. The Eagles drafted 3 receivers. So wide receiver talk very much on the mind of Eagles fans. I wanted to ask you, when you look at John, how do you determine the difference between a receiver's hands and his ball skills? How do you kind of define those 2 traits?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think ball skills is something you could train over time. I think hands is really a natural ability, and I think those are kind of the two separate traits at the receiver position. Is he has, and ironically, he has both. He has really good, a very innate ball skill set that he got from just being a great athlete, and then he works at it and gets on the jugs and really does a great job of using his eyes and his hands and coordinated together. And that's what, in my opinion, what makes an elite receiver is the guy that has the ability to make his eyes and hands kind of work together, almost in harmony, so to speak. And then it makes it look almost effortless when they catch the ball. So I think John really excels in both those areas.
Coach, one thing that stood out to me watching you guys on film last fall was, he lined up at X, he lined up at Z, he lined up in the slot. And then when you guys went heavy, when you guys went 22 or 13 personnel, he was the lone receiver on the field. The Eagles are a big 12 personnel offense, a couple of tight ends that they love to incorporate with Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. What does it mean to have that level of speed on the field in those heavier packages?
Well, I think it makes the defense defend the whole field, and that's why we did it. And that's why we moved John around from outside to inside. In the heavy sets, he was always out wide, because if you put him out there in those heavy sets, you get him in those big personnel groups, and they leave him one-on-one, well, then you got the matchup you want. If they take a safety and put him over the top, and now they got 2 over John, the corner of the safety, then it makes the box a little bit lighter to run the ball. So it's how the defenses are going to defend when you have a playmaker like John on the field, and then we as an offense have to exploit that. But that's the unique thing about having a guy like John who's so talented and can, like you said, and that was the other thing we like to do too is, he's primarily an outside guy for us, but then let's get him inside on these smaller nickels. Or if they don't package out and they leave a linebacker on John, let's exploit that. So we really try to move guys around and get as many mismatches as we can, and John really helped us do that.
Fans don't necessarily recognize the fact that you have to have the mental aptitude to be able to line up in different spots and understand how to attack leverage from different parts of the field. Obviously, John has that ability from the mental side of the game.
That's the one thing that I hope you guys will love and learn to get to know more about John, is he's actually very intelligent. We put him at quarterback a couple of times, and a couple of times we had to have him call the play in the huddle. And you would think for a receiver who doesn't do it very often, he loved it. He thrived on it. He would actually practice it. We would actually practice in the receiving meeting room just how he presented himself, and he would have so much fun with it. Even when we got into the game planning and practice, if we got to a certain play on the field, he'd call it out. He would call it out just like it was, like he was the quarterback, kind of in a jokingly manner. So he's very sharp. He's very smart. He's very intuitive. He's very football smart, and that's why I'm really excited about John moving forward.
The Eagles added a ton of speed over the weekend, and with John, certainly Jalen Reagor, the first round pick. They pair those guys with DeSean Jackson, and I would be remiss if I didn't ask you. I know you were at Cal in the mid 2000s. You coached DeSean Jackson his freshman year, and you recruited him there. So let's get some DeSean Jackson stories. What was it like recruiting young DeSean from high school, and what was it like having him in your room for that first year?
DeSean was awesome, and I mean that. I think recruited DeSean. That was back in the day when we started really young, which we still do now. And the unique thing about DeSean was he was also a professional baseball athlete as well. So I'd go to these games. I'd go to his baseball games. There'd be 15 scouts in the stands, and I'm here recruiting him for football. At Cal Berkeley. So it was kind of a very unique and different recruiting process with him. And I asked him one time, I go, hey, you know what? At the end of the day, why'd you end up coming to Cal? Why'd you come? And I'll never forget. He goes, because this is the time when video games are big, and they still are now. But sometimes I come over for a home visit. He was so exhausted from talking to baseball teams, talking to football, colleges, and he had so much going on. We literally would just sit there and just hang out and talk and play some video games, just where he'd kind of just be himself and kind of let loose a little bit. And so I think that was kind of a big difference maker. But he's as you guys know, ultra competitor, chip on his shoulder, wants to prove everybody wrong. And he was actually great in my experience at Cal with him, and so excited to kind of see him do what he's doing, where he's at now in his career.
Was there a moment early in his career? Obviously, you recruiting him, the kind of athlete you're getting, but when you get him on campus, was there a moment where you were like, all right, like this guy's everything we knew he was going to be?
I still tell the story today. It was his first practice at Cal Berkeley in the stadium. He's a true freshman. He's 153 pounds, little tiny dude, but everybody knew who he was. He's a big recruit, big name. And I go to DeSean, hey, when you get out here and we start making some plays, like just don't talk too much mess. Earn the respect of the older guys, some of the senior guys, the older guys. Well, we get into practice, and I'll never forget it. It's near the end of practice, last team beer is a deep post going down the hash, and DeSean goes up and jumps over. This is safety in the corner, jumps over two guys, grabs the ball away from unbelievable play. This is his first practice. And what does he do? And classic DeSean Jackson throws the ball down like the senior DB. He's like talking mess over the top in a good, playful way. But I was like, you got to be kidding. We talked about this. Take your time, earn the respect of the guys. But it was great. It was fun. But what a great competitive moment for DeSean, and really kind of that as his career went on, and just kind of a light in what was the seeing the future with DeSean. But man, I tell you, I tell guys today all the time, man, what an ultimate competitor.
I don't want to compare John to DeSean, but I know that fans are going to be if they're listening to this conversation, they would say, how do you compare John Hightower to DeSean Jackson? What are some of the similarities that you see? Obviously, the speed is there.
The speed and the natural hands. Both those guys really had natural ball skills, and really, I would say the speed, the natural hands, and really their competitive nature. I mean, that's another thing I'll challenge people to watch is you watch John Hightower blocking, even on special teams. He would take guys and run guys 20 yards down the field and then dump them into the ground because he just had that competitive nature to him. DeSean wasn't really big into that part of it, but he definitely had that competitive nature to him. So I think those are kind of a lot of the similarities. And I think, honestly, when you look at the great players, they all have that competitive edge, and that's what makes them great. And that's why I think John's going to do such a great for you guys. Once you guys get to know him, you'll see that competitive nature. He's kind of quiet, but that competitive nature will come out. I think those are a lot of similarities between him and DeSean for sure.
Coach, thank you so much for joining us here on PhiladelphiaEagles.com. Stay safe, stay healthy. Best of luck to you guys here this fall.
You got it. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.